Here we go. Football Friday, November 9th. Paulie and Teddy Sports Bet Betting Insight today, SBRpicks.com. All the betting news you need to know in less than 20 minutes. 4 NFL games we'll get to coming up, including the Cowboys and the Eagles Sunday night. Great spot for the Bengals, but can you go against the red-hot Saints, who are 4-0 straight up in ATS on the road? Exciting news, the live stream poker tournament powered by uwager.eu, where America bets. It's November 14th. 9 p.m. Eastern. All players must be signed up and have an active uwager.eu account to play the tournament. Prize pool $1,000 plus $500 in bounty money. You can knock out 5 hosts at SBR to win that cash as well. Top 10% of the players will be paid out $3,000 or 3,000 starting chips with 8-minute levels as well. Free roll. Entry fee is free for uwager members. So get up there and get a part of that. Sign up. Log in and win. uwager.eu. All right, bad beats, bad bets, bad books. Bad for the books. Let's start with a bad beat. Same thing here right off the top with the same game. 4-1 on the money line for the Suns. They're up 8 with 90 seconds. They're up 3 with 16 seconds and the ball. They blow it. It goes to overtime. So Suns money line and under becomes Celtics, who still won, but didn't. That would have been something if they would have covered because they were laying 9.5, 10. But the Celtics win in overtime, and the game goes over as a result of the Morris 3 with like 1 second left.
Sure, and that's a really tough beat if you had the under. It's a really tough beat if you had Phoenix on the money line. Suns didn't know how to close out against Boston, and that's something that young teams tend to struggle to do against their veteran foes. That was certainly the case last night. Didn't make it any easier to swallow if you had Phoenix and or under in that ball game. Tough beat either side.
And NHL, the Coyotes took money plus 135 down to 105, led 4-2 in the third. They lost 5-4 in OT against Gritty and the Flyers. Bad for the books. Warriors Bucks over 238 up to 241.5. The Bucks run out the Warriors on the road. The most points that the Warriors have allowed at home in a long, long time. 134 to 111. Curry left with an injury. Green didn't play. And Evansville, Illinois over 143 up to 149, 99-60.
Yeah, sure. I mean, let's give Milwaukee some credit. They came last night, and I'm kicking myself. I thought about playing it. The line came out shorter than I expected it to. I'm like, well, no Draymond Green. Curry got hurt, but the Bucks, who have looked as good or better than any team in the NBA so far this season, came out last night against the best team in the league, and they smacked them down on their home floor. Unfortunately, that's probably going to be the end of Milwaukee's point spread run. They've been a great moneymaker in early season play, but certainly from a bookmaking standpoint, all that over money, that all cashed. Not a great result for the house, even though the Bucks did pull the outright upset.
No, you're right. That line was suspiciously low, as it was only 5.5. Bad bets. Siena, George Washington over 137 up to 141. Panthers, from 6.5 down to 3.5. Lost 52-21, Teddy. They led 7-0 in that game. And then all hell broke loose. A horrible high school throw by Cam Newton with the pick 6. Roethlisberger was 22 of 25 with 5 touchdowns. McCaffrey scores 3 touchdowns, one of them late, as they were down. They led 7-0, and they were down 52-14 late in the game.
Sure, that would be a 52-7 run for Pittsburgh in that contest. And look, the bus ride games have been easy for the road teams. They've been able to compete. We've seen that when the Eagles beat the Giants. We saw that when the 49ers beat the Raiders. When you're talking about road teams that are getting on a plane for the Thursday night games consistently, week after week, we've seen poor results, poor preparation, poor play. It's not a great product. As the bettors, there are ways to take advantage of this, and that includes not taking road teams on Thursday night when they had to travel. Panthers stunk last night. Panthers don't stink. They had a bad night last night. Think of the Vikings in that Thursday night game. Vikings don't stink. They got blown out in L.A. What have they done since? Win and cover, win and cover, win and cover. I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina gets right back on track next week. But the bottom line last night, all that Panthers money, and the money on Thursday nights has been wrong too, Paulie. Each of the last 4 weeks, sharp money's coming in on whoever. The other side cashes with ease. That was the same case again last night. Good result for the books, bad result for bettors.
I like what Rivera said. Shit happens. Move on to the next game. This will happen from time to time. And NC State, nice job by the committee. Top 15 team, my ass. They lose to a third-string quarterback at home. They blow a 10-point lead late. They were bet up from 15.5 to 19 as Duffelbag Boy got involved here in Vegas with some six-figure bets. I don't know what this guy did, but he's something, Teddy. He bet it from 18 down to 17.5 a week after buying a half a point on a college game that was pick'em. So he's flushing money again. So that goes down there as they lose 27 to 23, and Newman picked them apart in the fourth quarter.
Look, Duffelbag Boy's gotten a lot of pub. Okay, I don't know him. I've never met him. But based on the bets that he's making and the way that he's making them, the books are very happy to take his action. Let's just put it that way, as they were last night when he bought a half point on a huge wager from 18 down to 17.5. Good bet, buddy. Oops.
Yeah, that was no good. What's your take on the pros against the Joes this week in the NFL?
Sure, lots of Joes love this week in the NFL, and it's what we expect. They're going to bet on teams that look good last week and bet against teams that are bad. Joe's money for the Falcons against the Browns. We're seeing Joe's money for the Chargers. Joe's money for the Patriots. The Chiefs, popular, laying 16.5 against Arizona. The Saints, they've got a pretty huge betting bandwagon, and let's not forget the Philadelphia Eagles. Joe's looking to bet against Dallas this coming Sunday night. On the pro side of the equation, we've seen sharp money. The biggest sharp move this week has been towards the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, looking at that Redskins injury report minus numerous starters on the offensive line. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been a popular wise guy play. They've been bet down off of 3, the key number of 3 in many locations. And both the pros and the Joes, they seem to like the Chicago Bears this week. Not a lot of love for the Lions in the betting marketplace.
I think we'll see a lot of movement on Sundays. The public's got a lot of got some extra money in their pocket after one of the biggest Sundays they've had in quite some time after the books got crushed. All right, the Saints hit the road 5.5 and 54 against the Bengals. It's a great spot for Cincinnati, but can you trust Dalton now without A.J. Green and a horrible, horrible Cincinnati defense from Mark Lawrence? They are 8-1-1 straight up and 10-0 ATS as home dogs against the NFC, but the Saints are 4-0 straight up in ATS on the road, and they're on a nice 6-0 run ATS as well, coming off the big win against the Rams.
You know, my take on this game has very little to do with the actual handicap. A priori, before we even talk about the teams, before we even talk about the matchups, here's the spot, all right? New Orleans, 6 straight covers, all right? The betting bandwagon has been growing by the week. So it's 6 straight point spread covers. They've had huge games each of the last 3 weeks. You know, that battle in Baltimore, and then up in Minnesota, and then obviously last week against the Rams. And now they're going on the road and laying more than a field goal. You can't lay with New Orleans here. It's betting 101. It's basic strategy. Huge bandwagon, group of huge games, laying points on the road, laying more than a field goal on the road against a team coming off a bye. You just can't do that. You're not going to make money in the NFL, short or long term, betting on teams like the Saints this week. All that being said, there's a lot of issues with Cincinnati. Of course, the Saints getting Des Bryant, I do not expect him to have an impact, a big impact in week 1 with Drew Brees, but he could have some impact. And of course, without A.J. Green, talk about Tyler Boyd. What do you think of Tyler Boyd? Paulie, you think he's the type of guy that can pick up the slack with A.J. Green hurt?
Well, I don't trust Dalton. I don't think he had the big catch against the Ravens week 17, but the Saints defense isn't anything to write home about either. But it's back to defense. This is the worst passing defense in the league. And these numbers, we know about Tampa Bay, we know about the Raiders and some of these other teams in Atlanta. The Bengals are right there in the bottom on all these key categories on defense.
Oh, my God. I mean, when you look at Cincinnati's aggregate defensive numbers, right now at the midway point, they are on pace to give up more yards than any team in NFL history, Paulie. They've allowed 3,582 yards in their first 8 ball games. We talk about, this Bengals defense, Marvin Lewis and coach defense. All of that? Not this year. They haven't. That defense has been consistently underachieving. They might be better off the bye. And the Saints won't have Marcus Davenport this week, who's been a pretty good pass rusher of their own. People telling me, look, Geno Atkins having a great season. Oh, look, Carlos Dunlap's having a great season. That Cincy defense, very hard to trust, even off a bye. Although from a yards per play standpoint, Both New Orleans and Cincinnati have both allowed 6.3 yards per play, well below league average. No surprise here if this game turns into a shootout.
All right, it's like the old wrestling loser leaves town match. Colts are 3-46.5 at home against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's played 7 unders in a row at Indy. They're 1-6 ATS before playing Pittsburgh. Next 3 games at home for the Colts. See if they can get back to 500. Oh, boy, can you bet on Bortles right now? As bad as he's been. 31st in passer rating. Colts are 25th in points allowed as well. They're actually been all right here. I know they had the close call against the Raiders. But you get Fournette back finally with Jacksonville. That can help. But you see how bad Bortles is playing, and it affects the rest of that team, and it's demoralizing for the defense, Teddy, that game after game they have to defend the short field.
Sure. I mean, look at the scores. They lose 30-14, 40-7, 20-7, 24-18, their last 4 ball games. All of them. The offense didn't work. The defense didn't work. I guess they played their best game of the bunch against the Eagles at Wembley. And even that game, rallying from behind, trying to get it together. The Jags are number 30 in turnover margin this year. Even if Fournette is back, okay, even if Carlos Hyde has an impact this week, it's still Luck versus Bortles, advantage Indy. But, and Fournette's hasn't been 100% cleared. They do think he's going to play. He's been in practice all week, but it's not a done deal right now. But you talk about the Jags off those 4 losses, and Indy went into the bye off 2 blowout wins. Now, when you say, that blowout wins, well, what'd they do? Well, let's see. They lost to the Jets, and they beat the Bills, and they beat the Raiders. So we're not talking about a team that's been dealing with quality foes. The Jags have been losing to quality foes. Indy's been beating on the weak. This is a season definer for both squads. You know what I mean? It really is. The winner here, live. The loser here, bye-bye. And if it's Jacksonville, the loser here, who knows what'll happen? That team, that locker room could implode. But the one thing that has been very beneficial for Indy during this 2-game winning streak, and even in the loss of the Jets, Marlon Mack running the football. We talk about Fournette. He's got the hype. Marlon Mack, back-to-back 100-yard games. The first time Indy's had that in like a decade. And we talk about Luck. And Luck, it's going to be the Jags' run defense that has to take care of business. They're not going to win unless they can make the Colts one-dimensional.
All right, to the late games, a good one. Rams at home against Seattle, trying to wrap up the division. 9.5 and 50.5 the total. They won at Seattle the first meeting, 33-31. Remember, McVay went for it deep in his own territory on 4th down, which was the right move. Kupp and Cooks left early with concussions. They still moved the ball at will. So did Seattle. Wilson had 3 touchdowns. Carson had 100 yards rushing. They gashed the Rams on the ground. Check the status of Carson in this one. Seattle 13-3 to the under the last 3 years on the road in conference games. And we'll see. You got to be. It's a lot of points, especially with how bad the defense has been, and they're hunting and throwing at Peters exclusively here. But you have to like the spot, at least a motivated Rams team. After a horrible job, they got embarrassed by the Saints, and Peyton and everybody calling them out afterwards as they dropped 45 on them.
I don't know if I'm going to say I like this spot for the Rams, because let's not forget what they have next. All right, this is a Rams team coming off back-to-back huge games. And up next, they're against Kansas City and Mexico City. That's a huge game as well. And here's the divisional matchup, but in the Pantheon, it kind of feels like a little bit of a flat spot for the home team. And the Rams haven't been making any money for anybody. They covered the first 3 weeks. Since then, 1 point spread cover the last 6 games, despite a 5-1 straight up record. So they're winning games without covering spreads like this one. And of course, we talk about the series history. You talked about how Seattle hung 31 in the first meeting, 190 rushing yards, 5.9 yards per carry, no problems running against the Rams defense in matchup number 1. We can also talk about some long-term history. Russell Wilson in his career, and this line's been bouncing around 9.5, 10, 9.5, 10. I think we called it 10 here. He's never been a double-digit underdog at any point in his career. First time that he's been in this role. He has been a good dog, 4-0 ATS, catching a touchdown plus so far in his career. So, Wilson's been pretty good. He's thrown 11 touchdowns in his last 93 attempts. And the Rams, with Marcus Peters getting burned again last week, that secondary is vulnerable. I'm in no rush to lay here with L.A., even though in theory it's supposed to be a bounce-back spot. Seattle's shown they can hang with this team. already this season.
Last year it got ugly. I will disagree with you. It's a big game for the fans, but it's NFC against AFC. The Rams need to get the 1 seed. You don't want to go to New Orleans for the NFC title game, and home field's important, and wrap up this division as soon as possible. Sunday night, NBC, Eagles up to 7 now. 43 at home against the Cowboys. Good tweet from Joe Osborne. 9 straight losses for Dallas off a Monday night game. They're 0-4 on the road while the Eagles are taking money. We're off the bye. Dallas is number 4 overall in defense, number 3 in scoring defense. The problem has been the offense. Horrible. Now, Garrett should be gone, but he's going to stick around according to Jerry. The guy who's on the hot seat now is Linehan, the calling the plays. But this has been a pathetic offense, Teddy. They're at the bottom, and close to the bottom in a lot of key categories. And I know Cooper had the touchdown pass Monday night. After that, they didn't do much the rest of the game. What do you think here, the champs off the bye week?
Well, there's 3 things that Dallas does better than Philly this year. And it starts with a big statistical differential. The Cowboys, every time they run the football versus when their opponent run the football, they've outgained them by 1.2 yards per carry. That's a huge edge. That's as good as anyone in the NFL. Philadelphia's been outgained by 0.4 yards per carry. 4.1 they gain, 4.5 they allow. That's not a good statistical profile for a team laying a touchdown. Second thing, the Cowboys have done better than the Eagles. They've avoided turnovers. Philly's -4 in turnovers. They've not been winning the turnover margin on the reg. Dallas only -2. Third thing, Cowboys have faced a tougher slate so far in terms of strength of opposition. So, yeah, it's a short week. Yeah, they've been awful. Yeah, Philly's got extra time to prepare. But the Eagles aren't delivering blowouts, Paulie. They only have 1 win by a touchdown or more all season. And while, Amari Cooper didn't do much on Monday night, we'll see if Golden Tate provides something for Philadelphia. But, I can tell you this, 2 things. 1, if you like the Eagles, bet them now at -7. You've already missed the best of the number, but it looks like this line is going up to 7.5 by kickoff. We're seeing significant support for Philadelphia in the betting market. So if you like Philly, get on them sooner rather than later. But I'm not inclined to lay it here, Paulie. I'm really not. The Eagles are not the big blowout team. And off the bye, you say, we love Philly off a bye. Yeah, I loved them last year off the bye when they had DiFilippo and Reich coaching them up. This year, the coaching's not quite what it was, and the level of preparation not quite what it was for the Eagles after their brain trust moved on with promotions elsewhere in the offseason. Doug Peterson, not, in my mind, a bet-on guy the way his assistants were a year ago.
Bet the Eagles to win the division. They're even money. I think that's a great bet. Washington has 3 guys out for the year. They have a tough schedule. They could lose at Tampa. Also, the Cowboys have a tough schedule, and they're going to lose this game Sunday. I think they're finished as well. Eagles are even money to win the division. Oakland 9-1 to the under last 10, second game of the season against the same opponent. Chargers have covered 7 in a row on the road, ATS in November. Arizona 3-12 ATS against teams averaging 25 points or more. Green Bay 8-1 ATS at home after a game where they were -3 or worse in the turnover margin. Tennessee 7 overs in a row at home, less than 6 days rest. You should see the numbers on the Patriots pre-bye week as well. Unbelievable numbers with Belichick pre-bye week. And that's just about that. I had something on the Jets and the Bills. Yeah. Well, the Bills. The Bills pre-bye week. Oh, hideous. They're on like they're 2-17 straight up run pre-bye week going back a long, long ways with the Bills. And they have that taken on the Jets, and it's probably Peterman against McCown in that one. Money time, play of the day. Take it away.
Sure. Just real quick, 2 NBA notes that just popped up. Goran Dragic will not play tonight for Miami. Kyrie Irving will not play tonight for Boston. A pair of point guards going to be sitting. Be aware as you make your NBA wagers. The market's likely to move regarding both of those injuries. What are we going to do in the NFL? You know what we're going to do in the NFL. It's the mother of all spot plays. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Game number 263. You can still find 3s out there with the Jags. This is a sharp versus square play. We're going to bet the team that looked awful and has had a week of everyone telling them how much they stink versus the team that was a little bit fat and happy against weaklings going to the bye. Take the Jags plus the points. That's our play of the day.
All right, yeah. Jazz look pretty good. They're up to 5. No Kyrie, and the Celtics on a back-to-back in Utah after an overtime game in Phoenix. That could be worth a look as well. We'll recap everything Monday. Have a good weekend out there. Get in the poker tournament again. Go to UWager and sign up as well. Got to be a member there. Low Shack in the Bag up next. All the betting news you need to know in less than 20 minutes. This has been Sportsbit. Betting Insight today, SBRpicks.com.